Welcome to my channel. I'm Scott, and in this video I am going to walk you through the process of valuing Foresight Autonomous' stock by analyzing their financial statements and dissecting their financial ratios so we can determine if it's a buy or a sell. Foresight designs and develops sensor systems for all vehicles, but its main focus is on driverless cars. The company is headquartered in Israel and was founded in 2015. It went public in 2015 and trades on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and Deutsche Börse. Just last month in May, it announced that it has a proof of concept with a leading European auto manufacturer to test its stereoscopic technology. The idea is to see if Foresight's auto vision technology can enhance the manufacturer's vehicle safety features. The first phase will be a feasibility test, and the second will be a simulation and real-life test. If its vision technology can be applied to level 2 and level 3 autonomous vehicles and potentially bump them into the next level, that is a massive leap with little effort and cost for manufacturers who are racing toward completion of their driverless vehicles. The company develops in-line of sight vision systems and beyond line of sight cellular-based applications. Its systems are designed to improve driver safety. It believes its advanced systems will revolutionize automotive safety. The stock shot up in December when it received a $1 million grant from the European Commission to take part in the automation of future heavy-duty vehicles. Its technology scans the road to mitigate possible collisions with vehicles, people, animals, or any other obstacle in the road. It's also working with Toyota on testing its technology. So a lot of really exciting things on the horizon for this company. Let's get started with the model. This is a small cap company, 309 million market cap. They're trading at $4.79 a share and they have 64 million shares outstanding. Let's look at the financials. The way you value a company is you estimate the free cash flows into the future and then you discount those numbers back to today's value. That's what we're doing in this video. And free cash flow is cash flow from operations minus capital expenditures. So they have negative free cash flow each year since they're pre-revenue. Net income is the profit or loss on the income statement. It's revenue minus expenses. That's also negative every year. Revenue is a sales for the company, and as I said, they're pre-revenue, so they have no revenue as of yet. This is the company's income statement. The top line is the revenue, the sales. Below that is their operating expenses. Examples are marketing, depreciation, and research and development. And of course, they have negative operating income each year. They have very little debt on their balance sheet. Then below that is other income and expenses. And this is the loss on its investment in other companies. They lost $2.6 million in 2020. And the bottom line of the income statement is their net income, which is negative every year. This is the company's statement of cash flows. The top line is operating cash flow. That's how much cash the company loses from its operational business. You could think of operating cash flow as net income converted to cash, because net income is your accounting profit and loss. It's not actual cash. You can see their operating cash flow is a lot better than their net income because there's a lot of non-cash items on the income statement. An example is depreciation. Then you have capital expenditures, which are investments in property, plant, and equipment. Their CapEx is pretty low. Operating cash flow minus CapEx gives you your free cash flow. And that, of course, is negative every year. When a company's pre-revenue, they have a hard time getting debt because the interest payments on the debt can be pretty high. Plus, they have no revenue coming in, so they can't pay the interest on their debt unless they take out more debt. A company that's pre-revenue in growth mode sells more stock to grow the business. They issued 11 million in 2018, 6.5 million in 2019, and 45 million in 2020. Every time a company issues capital stock, that increases the shares outstanding, making your shares less valuable. Let's look at their capital structure. $58 million of equity, $2 million of debt. They're 97% equity, 3% debt. And their net debt is negative $55 million. So they could pay off all the debt with the cash on their balance sheet and still have $55 million of cash left over. Their WACC is 14%. The weighted average cost of capital is the blended cost for raising equity and debt financing. And that 14% is a discount rate we're going to apply to the future cash flows. We estimated 7 years of future free cash flows. We also estimated a terminal value, which is all cash flows past year 7. That's $2.3 billion. We discounted those numbers back to today using the weighted average cost of capital. We get a value of the company of $1 billion. We divide that by 64 million shares. And we get a calculated stock price of $16. They're trading at $5, so they're trading at a 70% discount. It's a strong buy according to the model. So it is difficult to value a company that has no revenue. I looked at the potential size of the autonomous vehicle market. I also tried to estimate how much of a market share this company would have in that market and how successful it would be. So it is kind of like a guess, but I estimated they can get $2 billion of cash flow by 2027. If they converted 13% of that into free cash flow, they would have $256 million of free cash flow that year. And then the prior years just backed into that $256 million. This is the stock price since it started trading. So when it IPO'd, it looks like it was about $11. A lot of IPOs come down in the first few months, as this did, and it kept coming down more and more over the years. It hit a pretty low point. This point is around December, when they mentioned they were going to get that $1 million grant from the European Commission. And when good news comes out about a company, a lot of people buy the stock and get excited. But then there's usually a sell-off and the stock price comes down. Although the stock price is a lot higher than before that big run-up, this may be the new floor for the stock price. This is the stock price the last 12 months. So you can see the stock was really low 12 months ago, and then it was that big run-up, then it came down. Now it's sitting around $5 a share. When there's really good news about a company, it may be a good idea to sell when there's a big run-up, then buy once again when the stock price comes down. I don't usually try to time the market like that, but in this case, you could have made a nice return. This is a really volatile stock. The beta is 3.37, so the stock moves more than 3 times the market. The stock has done really well the past 52 weeks, up nearly 300%, while the S&P 500 is up 38%. The low was really low at 81 cents, and the 52-week high was over $12. The stock is trading above its 50-day moving average, but below its 200-day moving average. When the 200-day moving average crosses above the 50-day moving average, that's called the death cross. That's a bearish signal. And this is a fairly liquid stock. About 2.5 million shares are traded each day. Of the 64 million shares outstanding, 55 million are on float. When a share is on float, that means it's available for me and you to purchase. The 9 million of shares not on float are held by insiders and cannot be purchased. Although those 9 million shares do count in the shares outstanding, as you can see. 4% of the shares are held by institutions, and 5% of the shares are shorted. In the past year, this stock has done really well, up over 300%. Its industry is up 89% and the market 48%. In the past 3 years, this stock has done better than its industry, but worse than the market. So you can see how volatile the stock is. In the past 90 days, you'd be down 38%. But if you bought it just 30 days ago, you'd be up 43%. And in just 1 week, it's up almost 8%. Analysts are forecasting their earnings to grow 50%, its industry 31%, and the market 15%. So analysts appear bullish on this stock. In the past 5 years, their annual earnings decreased 11%, its industry increased 6%, and the market increased 12%. In the past year, their earnings increased 3%, its industry 40%, and the market 21%. If you invested $10,000 into this company when it IPO'd, your investment would have been down to almost nothing at one point. But if you're still holding on, you'd be at $4,000 today. That's a 59% loss. The biggest shareholder is Magna. The company started as a spin-off of Magna, so they got 11% of the stock. The next is Harrell Insurance. This is the largest insurance company in Israel. Then next is Renaissance Technology. This is a hedge fund in New York. Then Migdal owns 1% of the stock. This is an Israeli mutual fund. And then the last is Mytav. This is an Israeli investment company. Let's look at their financial ratios. The average PE in the market's 33, the median is 22. PE is stock price over earnings per share. To calculate earnings per share, that's net income over shares outstanding. They have negative net income since they have no revenue, so we can't look at the PE. We can't look at the price to sales either because they have no sales. Their price to book is pretty good at 5.3. That's between the market median and average. That means investors are paying $5.30 for $1 of book value. They have negative net income, so they have negative ROE, and they have a ton of current assets on their balance sheet, so they can easily cover their current liabilities. They have $57 million of cash. With young companies like this, trying to grow their business, they tend to have a lot of cash on their balance sheet because they need to constantly invest in their business, and they're going through a lot of money building products, acquiring companies, doing whatever they can do to grow their business. So even though they had negative $10 million of free cash flow in the trailing 12 months, they have $53 million of working capital. Working capital is current assets minus current liabilities. So they do have a lot of cash to work with, so they probably won't need to do another capital raise this year unless they need money to acquire another business. The best way to look at ratios to compare them to companies in the same industry. I've done videos on Aptiv, Borg Warner, Goodyear, Candy, LKQ, Linamar, and Magna, all in the same industry as Foresight. And if Foresight has a number in red, they're worse than the average. If they have a number in blue, they're better than the average. So of course they have really weak ratios because they don't have any revenue yet. So we can't look at the PE, price to sales. They're doing worse in price to book. They have a really high current ratio. They have a bad ROE. They are really low in debt since they're using equity to fund their business. And they have the smallest market cap on this list. So to summarize, I have them trading at a 70% discount. Investing in any company is a risk. Investing in a company pre-revenue is a major risk. But the rewards can be massive. If this company's products do what they say it does, they can play a really important role in the car market. If their products don't work well, then the company won't go anywhere. But it's really difficult because even if you have good products, that doesn't mean you'll be successful. Because sometimes political influence, connections, or bigger companies can quash you. It definitely won't be an easy road ahead, but so far they're doing some really exciting things and I think they have a good future. But only time will tell. I rank their free cash flows 1 out of 10, their revenues 1 out of 10, and their ratios 1 out of 10. So let me know what you think. Give this video a like, subscribe, or comment below. Also, if you'd like to get a custom valuation or just support the channel, you can become a member by clicking on the link in the description below. Thanks for watching.